It is our fifth story on the countdown, and it is a memo from a departed Secretary of Defense written 2 days before he departed, departing as certainly as did Dickens' character Jacob Marley. And in essence, it cries and screams and clanks its chains, nearly just as Marley's ghost did to Scrooge post-mortem, Rumsfeld's ghost in favor of everything to which Rumsfeld himself had been opposed. The Rumsfeld classified memo somehow leaked to the New York Times, presenting a wide range of options for Iraq because, Rumsfeld's ghost concludes, the current course is not working. The timing of the leak both auspicious and suspicious on the eve of a week that would bring both the confirmation hearings of Mr. Rumsfeld's successor and the Iraq Study Group's final report to President Bush. In his memo dated November 6, Mr. Rumsfeld admitting that the administration's current strategy in Iraq is not working. Quote, "In my view, it is time for a major adjustment. Clearly, what U.S. forces are currently doing in Iraq is not working well enough or fast enough." The defense secretary also offering ways to limit the political fallout that would no doubt come with a change of course. Quoting again, "Recast the U.S. military mission and the U.S. goals, how we talk about them. Go minimalist." Perhaps the most striking suggestion among the laundry list of potential options floated by the defense secretary, either withdrawing troops or repositioning them to border areas of nearby Kuwait. When Democrats like Jack Murtha have suggested similar options, the White House has accused them of, quote, "cutting and running." It should come as no surprise, then, that on the very day Mr. Rumsfeld submitted the memo, the president himself, on the eve of the election, was lashing out at the Democrats for cutting and running in Iraq.
We've got a plan for victory, but if you listen to the debate about Iraq from the Democrats, I don't hear their plan for victory. Oh, they've got some ideas. Some of them say get out right now. Some of them say get out at a fixed date, even though the job hadn't been done. One of them said let's move our troops to an island some 5,000 miles away. Harsh criticism is not a plan for victory. Second guessing is not a strategy. We have a plan for victory. And part of that plan is to make sure Republicans control the House and the Senate.
Well, that part of the plan has clearly, in the choice words of Mr. Rumsfeld's ghost, gone minimalist. Dana Milbank's analysis of all this in a moment. First, the island some 5,000 miles away to which Mr. Bush was referring, of course, being Okinawa. That had been floated by Congressman Murtha as a last-ditch destination for the redeployed U.S. troops, only if they would not be welcomed in Kuwait, Qatar, or Bahrain first. This afternoon at the White House, Press Secretary Tony Snow playing the Okinawa card as well.
So why wasn't the president leveling with the American
Actually,
people?
at the time that this came...
He's saying publicly what top members of this administration who were running the war were saying privately.
Well, there are a couple of things. First, at that very time, he was actually saying things are not getting well enough fast enough. That was a formulation he was using at the time. If you take a look at the Rumsfeld memo that was printed in the New York Times, what you end up having is what the president, I think, has made it clear that he wants, which are people thinking creatively and exhaustively about ways of getting better results in Iraq. So I don't think you've got a case where the president was saying one thing and advisors are saying another. What the president was saying is that you've got a sovereign government with the government of Prime Minister Maliki that is pursuing what it needs to pursue, but obviously needs to be doing so more effectively and more rapidly. So certainly we weren't trying to wrap it up into a neat little bundle because it's a very complex situation.
But isn't it striking that at the same time that you and others in this administration were accusing the likes of John Murtha of cutting and running by suggesting redeployment of forces to the periphery of Iraq or to nearby Kuwait, that the Secretary of Defense is suggesting similar options?
Well, no, what Mr. Murtha had suggested was he was never quite that specific, and I think I'd let him speak for himself, but I believe when he came on the Meet the Press, he was talking about redeploying to Okinawa. What you have in here is a description of possibly having forces. Well, that's what he talked about.
You say you don't want to talk more.
No, here's what he says: is you can withdraw forces from vulnerable positions, cities patrolling, etc., and move forces to a quick reaction force status operating from within Iraq and Kuwait. Now, it is one of many options that are described here. What it means is the administration is trying to take a look at every suggestion, as I think would be incumbent.
You're not really answering the question. You're trying to parse.
No, I'm not.
Wait a second. Let me just finish.
Okay.
Isn't it striking that this administration was accusing the likes of John Murtha and other Democrats who suggested course correction, including phase withdrawal, of cutting and running, at the same time that the defense secretary was suggesting just the same option?
No.
You don't see hypocrisy there?
No, because you're talking about apples and oranges. If you take a look at what, yes, really, because There is no suggestion in here that things be done without regard to developments on the ground. What the president has already said is, what you try to do is, obviously we want U.S. forces to be withdrawing based on what is going on the ground in Iraq, and there is still a significant difference.
So this White House is playing it straight with the American people.
Yeah.